Story 1. My girlfriend of 4 years has recently become obsessed with a male streamer, and I feel really uncomfortable about it. This is really embarrassing to even post about, and I don't even know if my feelings about this situation are valid or if I'm just being a jealous boyfriend. My girlfriend, 26F, and I, 27M, have lived together for 2 years now, and it's great. She is admittedly my first girlfriend, so I am a bit inexperienced, but our relationship has been steady and happy. I was planning on proposing to her this year, but my plans were squashed by current events. I know she wants to get engaged somewhere nice, but traveling right now is not smart or feasible. My girlfriend lost her job back in July thanks to COVID, and it really devastated her. It was pretty close to being a dream job for her, so she took it really hard. She started panicking about finding another job in this market. I am really fortunate to have a well-paying, essential job and minor debt, so I was more than happy to let her take a break for a few months. She was already getting kind of depressed from quarantining, her job was work from home, and I thought letting her rest and recover for a bit would help. She readily agreed and was super grateful. She really stepped up, the apartment was super clean, and she was making delicious, elaborate dinners. Since it's just us two in a one-bedroom apartment, there's not too much mess between us, so she still had a ton of free time. She got tired of all the stuff on streaming services and started watching more YouTube. Then her friends invited her to play a game with them, and she got hooked on it and started watching YouTube videos about it. I guess that's how she found this streamer. Let me tell you, my girlfriend's interest in video games before this was mostly limited to Mario Kart, so I was a bit taken aback by her suddenly watching Twitch and YouTube gaming videos 24/7. But I was excited for her to find a new hobby/interest, at first. Now everything is about this guy. She follows him on every social media platform and is either rewatching old streams of him when he's not streaming or watching him live. And this guy can stream for hours and hours at a time, mostly when I'm finally home from work and want to spend time with her. If I ask her to watch a movie with me, she'll keep an earbud in and still have him streaming on her phone, barely paying attention to the movie. She shows me a lot of clips from the streams that are funny, and I guess I can see why she thinks it's fun to watch him, but I'm getting really jealous of this guy. Her mood on the days he doesn't stream is always low, and she acts really grumpy around me. She has paid money to become a subscriber, not sure how that works, and I confronted her about possibly sending him donation money, but she assures me she hasn't. She's pretty good with money, so I like to think she's telling the truth. But at this point, I don't know how I feel. I am scared to hurt her feelings, especially since she finally seems happier these days. I made a joke the other day about how she likes him more than me, and she got really offended by it, so I don't even know how to broach the topic with her. I don't want to control what she does with her free time, but I feel like this guy has replaced me. At the same time, I feel stupid being jealous of a guy she is interested in and who is semi-famous. It's not like she's his one and only fan. Am I feeling threatened for no reason? Or should I actually be worried about this? Relevant comments. Commenter. It's understandable that you feel a little jealous or threatened because she's so excited and into this, but yes, you are overreacting. COVID has turned people's lives upside down, and that kind of dramatic change and stress leads to finding relief in unusual places. She's found it in this Twitch/gaming world in general and in this guy's stream in particular. She's not more into him than she is into you, she's not replacing you. But watching him is, well, keeping her sane? That's a slight overstatement, but only a slight one. People are taking up new hobbies in obsessive ways as a coping mechanism because when your life feels out of control, you seek pleasure and a sense of well-being wherever you can get it. You see yourself as giving her safe harbor, where she stays home all day, and you are, and she's probably quite grateful for it. But at the same time, you are going out daily and seeing other humans, and she is not. Her social contact outside of you coming home at night? Twitch and gaming. This is her lifeline. Her world cannot revolve around her relationship with you. She's taking care of that relationship, and you, with the cleaning and the meals, and she has lost her sense of purpose beyond that. Let her have this Twitch stuff and whatever outlets keep her from snapping. Please. Trust me on this. I haven't left the house hardly at all since March, work from home, higher risk chronic condition, and I get irrationally, is it irrational, though, jealous when my spouse leaves the house and does normal things because I can't. Let her get whatever it is she needs from this, and don't be jealous. There is nothing to be jealous of. Ops response. I really appreciate hearing your perspective. She seems so much happier on the outside now that I tend to forget that stuff can still be going on that isn't as apparent or visible. I don't think you're being irrational either, that sounds rough. I know she is definitely lonelier than I am since she's not going anywhere these days. She still texts her friends, and sometimes she plays that game with them, so she has that. Commenter 2. What? No, you have to get a bit angry. Not over the top, but call her out on this BS. If I ask her to watch a movie with me, she'll keep an earbud in and still have him streaming on her phone, barely paying attention to the movie. This is not okay. Anyone telling you this is okay is also not okay. You need to say something like, "Hey, are you serious right now? I thought we were watching a movie together. What are you doing?" What she's doing is not respectful to you as your partner in a relationship and needs to be addressed directly. I know this might seem difficult since she's your first girlfriend, but you're being walked all over here. Update 6 days later. So here's an update. I read every comment on the last post, sorry for not replying. I got really overwhelmed by the feedback I was getting, and I kind of shut down for a bit. I acknowledge now that I really should have said something to her earlier before letting it get to this point. I posted that on Thursday, and I was really lucky that he ended up not streaming on Friday. That morning, I told her we should get takeout from our favorite place and have a little date night. She seemed really excited. I picked up the food, came home, and she was watching old clips, but I was able to get her off her phone, and we had a nice time together. I then asked if we could talk, and she agreed. I basically told her that I was hurt by how she hadn't been paying as much attention to me since she started watching him and that I was also worried about her mental state because a lot of people had mentioned she might be depressed. She apologized for the whole movie incident, but she really denied that anything was wrong mentally. I told her I would even pay for therapy if she needed it or at least try it, but she said no. She ended up really grumpy with me and went to bed early, so I guess I messed up that conversation. I felt so bad about how that night went that I wanted to make it up to her and plan a better date night for Saturday. I went out and got some stuff to set it up. When she woke up the next morning, I told her we were going out that night, and she seemed excited when I told her it was a surprise. While she was cooking dinner, I went out to my car and decorated it for Christmas, bows and lights on the inside, a stash of Christmas candies and chocolates, cozy blankets, the good stuff. We had dinner, and then she got to the car and was super excited. We picked up some hot chocolate, the music was playing, and I had a whole route planned of the best Christmas lights, with a grand finale at the big local drive-through lights. We had a great time for about 30 minutes until a notification popped up on her phone that he was live. Then everything went downhill. She started watching him, and I asked her to please be present with me. She told me this was a really interesting stream idea they were doing, and I started getting really frustrated. She was missing the lights to watch him play Minecraft. I pulled over and told her that either she puts the phone away for the rest of the night, or we are going back home since she didn't want to be present on our date. I told her she could always watch later, the recording would still be there. I did get angry and raised my voice, which I shouldn't have, because she started crying. I felt like a jerk, so I just silently drove us back to our apartment, and she locked herself in our bedroom. I sat on the couch all night, and I came to the conclusion that my feelings had been hurt one too many times. Maybe I didn't give her enough chances, but the pain was overwhelming, and I decided we needed to break up. 4 years, gone just like that. She woke up, and I told her as calmly as I could that I would not be the third wheel in our relationship to a streamer and that she needed professional help. She freaked out, begged me to reconsider. I told her I didn't see the relationship being salvaged at this point, but maybe if she got professional help, found a new job, and stopped watching him so obsessively, it might. She sobbed, threw a bag of her stuff together, and left for her parents' house. Her dad called me screaming, and I tried to explain what happened, but he didn't get it. She texted me saying she'd come get the rest of her stuff after the holidays. So yeah. I guess it's over. Maybe I didn't give her enough chances to fix her behavior, and we might reconnect if she takes what I said to heart, but at the moment, I just can't tolerate it. It sucks that I have to be alone through Christmas now and that I feel like I just lost my first love to a streamer. Thanks so much for all of your advice, and I'm sorry I couldn't apply it better. I wish I had a better update for you all. Relevant comments. Commenter. For future reference, when you plan a date night, keep it a date night. None of this I planned a night for us so I can ruin it by making it about this issue I have. Aside from that, I literally cannot believe she can't put her phone down to be present with you in the moment, especially since you specifically asked her. I know it's hard right now, especially around the holidays, but you deserve a partner who wants to spend quality time with you over some dumb streamer. Most girls would kill for a guy like you. Ops response. Yeah, that was totally my mistake. I was trying so hard to hold back from bringing it up, but I did anyway. I will definitely take your advice to heart. Commenter 2. I still want to know which streamer that was, lol. Ops response. Most people guessed him right in the comments on the last post. I'm just anxious to reveal his name, and I know the dude did nothing wrong, but I'm not his biggest fan at the moment, lol. Commenter 3. Don't worry about revealing who he was, it won't affect his popularity since he literally didn't do anything other than live his life. But who was it? Ops response. Sikuno. Story 2.
My boyfriend is driving me insane because he keeps hiding my stuff and then putting it back later, saying I must have just not seen it and that I'm causing unnecessary drama. My boyfriend of 5 months moved in with me 3 weeks ago. He had some problems with his apartment, damp walls, and it needs to be renovated. Since my roommate is currently spending some time abroad, I told him it would be okay if he stayed at my place for 4 to 6 weeks, he'll be able to move back to his own apartment by then. So now we've been living together for 3 weeks, and things started out great. Jealousy had been a bit of a problem between us because we often go out separately, probably once a week, but coming home to the same apartment helped him get over his unjustified jealousy. But there has been one new problem. Now, this may seem petty at first, but I'm really at my wit's end with this one. Ever since he moved in with me, things have started disappearing and then reappearing a day later in the same place they were missing from. I'm talking about documents, small household items, and food. And it's not like losing keys and then finding them again somewhere else. I specifically look for something in a certain place where it isn't, only for it to be there the next day. For example, I like to take a chocolate bar with me to work in the morning, and for that, I normally keep a pack of chocolate bars at home. Shortly after he moved in, I woke up to find all the chocolate was gone. I asked him about it, and he said he didn't know anything about it. I came home only to find the chocolate bars back in the cupboard. I asked him again, and he said he didn't know anything about it. Maybe you just didn't see them in the morning. We're talking about a large pack with about 12 chocolate bars, how could I not see that? At first, I thought it was maybe some strange kind of humor, but he seems angry when I bring it up, and it's really starting to piss me off because, sometimes, the missing items belong to my friends, and I end up unable to return them on time. Other times, they're important documents I need for a specific day. Now, I have absolutely no idea what this is about. I am not crazy, I just don't understand it all. He gets really angry when I talk about it, saying I'm making this up just to cause drama. Why would I do that? I have no idea what's going on. Does anyone have any ideas? Relevant comments. Commenter. He's gaslighting you, you need to run. Ops response. Someone else used that term too. I looked it up on Urban Dictionary, but I'm not sure what it's supposed to mean. And why would someone do that? I mean, what's the goal behind it? Commenter 2. The goal is to make you think you're crazy so that you doubt your own sanity, while he remains in control of the situation and is always right because you are clearly insane. Commenter 3. To expand on this comment, it's a way to manipulate you and increase his control while diminishing yours. It sets the stage for an abusive relationship, manipulating the victim into dependency on the abuser, making them mentally uncertain or unable to leave the relationship, often financially trapped or without the means to escape. You may want to question his motives here. Would someone who cares about you, and who you supposedly care about, want to make you feel insane? What motive would he have for moving your things and then putting them back? Ops response. I don't know, this sounds really messed up. He's a nice guy, and, I don't know how to put it, he's not the most academic guy. This sounds like serious psychological manipulation. Commenter 4. You mean, you think he's a nice guy because his actions, before his most recent ones, have led you to assume so? How long did you know him before you started dating? Do you have a lot of mutual friends? Do you know any of his exes? Does he have a job? Does he stay inside all day? Ops response. I've known him for about 2 months. We met at a mutual friends party. I had just gotten out of another relationship and wasn't interested in dating, but he showered me with very romantic gifts, gestures, and letters, which I hadn't experienced with any of my exes, so we started going on dates about a month after we met. He wanted a relationship very quickly, and at some point, I thought, why not? He works at a gym, but only 6 hours a day, so he's not there all day by himself. He usually leaves the apartment 2 hours after I do and returns 1 to 2 hours before me. Update 9 days later. First of all, thank you all very much for your suggestions, advice, support, and concern. I've received multiple PMs asking if I was okay, and I really appreciate it. So, back to my situation. After reading all your comments and doing some research on gaslighting, I was really freaked out. Plenty of you pointed out other red flags in our relationship. It got me thinking, and more things came to mind that should have worried me a long time ago. Our whole relationship felt pretty rushed from the start. I didn't even want to date, but he showered me with romantic gifts, gestures, date ideas, and texts until I finally gave in. He was pretty upset when I didn't want to say I love you right away, when I didn't want him to meet my family immediately, when I insisted on using a condom, he said you don't trust me, and when I refused to book an expensive vacation with him. He was very jealous and didn't want me to go out without him, even though he went out with his friends all the time. He made me cancel plans to spend time with him and then stood me up. He logged into my Facebook and changed my relationship status one day after we started dating as a surprise. I was actually worried about that at the time but convinced myself he was just bad at making surprises. As one commenter pointed out, all the things that had gone missing were somehow connected to me leaving the house or meeting friends and family, a gift for my friend, the key to my parents' house, a borrowed USB stick, documents for an application for a semester abroad, which we had a huge fight about because he didn't want me to go, etc. After reading about gaslighting, I ordered a nanny cam. Unfortunately, the delivery took 4 days, but after just 1 day, I already knew I couldn't be with him any longer. I wanted him out of the apartment as soon as possible and with as little drama as possible. I told him that my roommate had gotten a really interesting job offer and would be cutting her vacation short to come home in a week, so he had to move out. He was pretty angry, but I told him there was nothing I could do. I also told him, as some of you suggested, that his landlord had to find him a place to stay and that he should call him. The next day, he told me he had talked to his landlord and could move back into his own flat the following weekend. The renovations hadn't taken as long as planned. At this point, I doubt the apartment ever had damp walls to begin with, but who knows? That evening, he asked if I wanted to move in with him because it works so well and you don't like your roommate anyway. I never even said that. I told him sure, I would move in with him in June. He was pretty excited about it. While waiting for the nanny cam to arrive, there was one more incident where something went missing, a book I had ordered for my dad on Amazon and planned to bring him the next day, or at least, that's what I told my boyfriend. Of course, by morning, the book was gone. I chose to ignore it, but he reacted strangely, even asking me on my way out if I had taken the book with me. Why on earth would he ask that if he didn't expect a reaction? I just said, "What book?" "The book you wanted to bring your dad." "I don't know what you're talking about." That evening, the book was back on my desk, of course, and I ignored it again. 2 hours later, he casually walked by my desk and said, "That's the book I was talking about." I just said, "Oh, that book." He seemed pretty angry for the rest of the evening. 2 days later, the nanny cam finally arrived. I set it up while he was at the gym and, once again, placed a letter I needed for work on my desk. I wasn't surprised at all when it was gone a few hours later and reappeared the next day. When I finally had the apartment to myself again and could check the footage, I saw exactly what I already knew. He took the letter while passing my desk, put it in his gym bag, and then put it back a few hours later. However, as soon as I saw the evidence, I decided against confronting him. To be honest, I was scared of his reaction and had already decided to break it off as soon as possible. The camera didn't tell me his motive, and I figured he probably wouldn't tell me anyway. Still, it frustrated me that I would probably never know why he did it. On the last evening before he moved back to his newly renovated apartment, I told him I wanted to watch an old movie called Gaslight. Thanks for the tip, everyone, it really is a great movie. He sat with me through the whole film but was quieter than usual while I kept talking about how unrealistic it was and how obviously insane the husband was. I actually expected some kind of reaction from him, but he just sat there looking nervous. On Sunday, he took all his stuff back to his apartment. My brother had arranged for someone to come and change the locks, and as soon as that was done, I sent my boyfriend a text telling him it was over. I said I had no interest in being contacted again, that our breakup was final, and that it was very sad he had to hide my things to keep the relationship interesting. Since then, he's been calling me nonstop, but I haven't picked up and I won't. I know this isn't the most heroic or exciting ending. I could have confronted him with the video evidence, but instead, I cowardly broke up via text. However, I really didn't want to have a dramatic fight, I just wanted it to be over as quickly and smoothly as possible. If there's anything I've learned from this, it's not to rush into a relationship. For the past 7 years, I've jumped from one long-term relationship to the next, and I think it's time to stay single for a while and focus on my college classes. For now, I'm staying at my brother's for a couple of weeks, and I should probably change my phone number. I'm sorry I can't give you any insight into why he did it. It could have been kleptomania, a prank, or just him messing with my stuff because something about me frustrated him. I will probably never know. In all the texts he sent me, he just says he doesn't know what I'm talking about and that he never took my things. Relevant comments. Commenter. Breaking up with this psycho over text wasn't cowardly in this case, you did all the smart things. You busted him on video, got him out of the house, changed the locks, and then broke up with him. If anything, this is probably one of the smartest breakups I've ever seen. Ops response. Thank you for saying this. I was so freaked out, I just wanted him to leave quietly. Commenter 2. You said something very wise near the end of your post, that you needed to stop rushing into relationships and spend some time by yourself. I learned, after many unproductive relationships, none of them were bad, they were just nothing special, That learning to spend time by myself and becoming comfortable with it made me a much happier and calmer person. It allowed me to approach relationships differently because I was no longer desperate for someone to be with. I was quite happy with my own company. Now, I only spend time with people who make me happy. I have no interest in friendships or romantic relationships that are stressful. Ops response. Exactly, I had a long talk with my brother and his wife, and they reluctantly told me that most, if not all, of my ex-boyfriends were some kind of douches and that they always had the feeling they held me back. So, I guess it's really for the best to focus on myself for a while. Second update 2 months later. Final update, I'll try to keep it short this time. Unfortunately, my last update was locked, so I couldn't reply to every comment I would have liked to. In the past few weeks, I've gotten some messages asking if I'm okay/still alive, so I thought I'd write one more update. I'd love to give you an overall happy update, but unfortunately, the breakup didn't go as smoothly as I first thought it would. I never picked up when my ex called me and never responded to any of his countless messages, but I read most of them. There was a certain shift in his messages after about 4 days when he suddenly went from this, "I love you and miss you so much. I don't know what you think I have done, but I can assure you I didn't do anything wrong. Whoever told you that is a liar. Please give me another chance." To this, "You're such a whiny beach, no wonder you can't hold a relationship with anyone. I hate you, and there's no second chance for us, no matter how much you wish for that. For your own sake, pray to never run into me again." I blocked his number later that same week but had an overall bad feeling when some strange things started happening. Some friends of mine called to ask if I was okay, and they were all under the impression that I had broken up with him because I wanted to concentrate on my mental health. Twice, I arrived at work to find everyone surprised to see me because someone had called to say I wasn't feeling well enough to come in. When I asked who it was, they said he had claimed to be my doctor. Also, my ex wrote to my mom on Facebook. They had never actually met in person, pretending to be a concerned friend asking about my well-being after my latest breakdown. It was very easy to clear some of that up, especially with my family, but it was harder to do so at work. After 3 weeks at my brother's, I decided to move back into my own apartment, which turned out to be a bad idea. On the second evening, I saw my ex in front of the building, and then I saw him at least every other day, standing on the other side of the street, just watching. After about a week, someone started ringing the bell at 3 a.m. for 5 nights straight. On 3 occasions, I came home to find a small piece of paper in front of my door with a flame drawn on it. It creeped me out so much that he somehow managed to get into the building. I grew more and more afraid to leave the apartment and finally decided to move back in with my brother and his family. My friend, whom I shared the apartment with and who is currently abroad, didn't take the whole situation well. She was furious when she heard that I changed the locks without telling her, and even more furious when I told her I'd be moving out because that wasn't what we had initially agreed upon. However, I just can't go back there. In hindsight, though, I probably should have involved her more in the process. I did ask her parents if it was okay to change the lock since it's their apartment, but I didn't speak to her about it. I feel really crappy about letting him stay in her apartment in the first place. I also went to the police to get a restraining order. I was surprised by how hard it is to get one. I needed not only evidence of him harassing me but also evidence that he was threatening my safety. However, after long hours and much patience from my sister-in-law, I finally got one. The bright side is that I got approved for my semester abroad, which starts in October. To avoid burdening my brother any longer, I will be leaving in August and maybe traveling around a bit. I'm already in a Facebook group with all the other exchange students who will be there next semester, and I think I certainly won't be alone. When I come back, I'll be looking for a small apartment on my own. I can't thank you all enough for opening my eyes after my first post here. I actually had no idea what was going on, even though I had a feeling that something was off. You guys saved me from a very abusive relationship, and every day, I'm grateful I got out of it soon enough.
Story 3.
Am I the jerk for demanding that my fiancé's parents change their plans to have a vacation at the same place and time as our honeymoon? My fiancé and I have our wedding coming up in April. We had brainstormed for a while about where best to spend our honeymoon. We went over the more popular and well-known places but then landed on a more offbeat destination that I felt would truly be a great place for us to start our life as a married couple. I've been looking forward to it just being the two of us. I know he has a really hectic work schedule, and we were going to make the most of this. A couple of days ago, he told me that his parents had been impressed by how excited I was about it and were planning on going there for a vacation too, largely overlapping with our dates. They're staying at the same hotel as us. I was livid. They can go any other time, why now? He said he had suggested that, but his mom said they had taken time off for the wedding too, and it worked well into their plans. Also, since we're going to be nearby, it would allow them to maybe see us a few times before we leave. I was almost in tears, I was so angry. He tried to reassure me, saying they had promised it would be 2 separate trips and that they wouldn't be inserting themselves into our honeymoon. They want us to enjoy it, and they'd be doing their own thing. I want to believe it, but I know his mom. I like her as a soon-to-be mother-in-law, but she can be very clingy and routinely laments how far he, and now we, are from them, so I just have a feeling the 2 plans are not going to be as independent as he thinks they'll be. I vented about it to my parents too. My mom agreed with me that this isn't right. My dad is more on the fence about it, he doesn't think everything is ruined. I've demanded my fiancé make them change their plans. He says he asked them to, they promised to do their own thing, what can he do? Tell them he doesn't believe them and call them liars. I messed up here and said that if that's what it takes, he should do it. He got quiet. I realized that was too much and sincerely apologized for crossing the line. This has been eating me up. I was envisioning a certain type of honeymoon, and now this has happened. Am I the jerk for demanding they change their plans? Relevant comments. Commenter. As much as it sucks, the only way to truly secure an in-law-free honeymoon would be to cancel your plans and go somewhere else. Not ideal, but there's no way you're not going to accidentally bump into them the whole time they're there. Ops response. A few other comments have said this too. I truly appreciate what you're saying, and I know I'm overreacting here, but this makes me want to bawl my eyes out. Commenter 2. I would personally change the hotel, the dates, or both, or stay at a different hotel during the dates they'll be there. Also, a no cell phone policy, so they can't get a hold of you. But to be honest, this is a husband problem, not an in-law problem. He should have shut her down point blank at the mere suggestion of going to your honeymoon destination at the same time. Ops response. Dates can't really be changed. I'd be okay with that, but I know it wouldn't work for him. He had to move around some work stuff for us to finally settle on these dates. A different hotel could work, but this is a coastal area, and I really wanted one close to the beach. I'll start looking for other options, though. This hotel also had really good reviews. And since it's not a huge city or anything, if people want to meet, it's not too inconvenient, which sucks because what if they decide they do want to meet? And what if we meet on the beach? I'd have to change what I planned on wearing too. I'm just really hoping they change their plans because, quite honestly, if I'm the one who has to change mine, I might not end up being a good daughter-in-law. Commenter 3. Why do you have to change what you're wearing? It's your honeymoon. If they have a problem with what you're wearing, remind them, A. This is your honeymoon. B. They said they would do their own thing, so they should go do that. C. It's your freaking honeymoon. Ops response. There were a couple of bikinis that I had bought for the beach that would definitely be considered tacky to wear in front of in-laws. I thought about this more. I was heartened by the response here because I thought I was the one being over the top about it, but I can see that most people agree that what they're doing isn't right. I really don't want to change plans. I'm going to see him after work and stress how important it is to me that they not come. I'm going to talk about them respectfully but be firm because last time, I feel I went a little over the line, which derailed our conversation. Update 2 days later. Hi, thank you for the advice in the original post. I've thought about this more. I was heartened by the response here because I thought I was the one being over the top about this, but I saw that most people agreed that what they're doing isn't right. I really didn't want to change plans, so I planned to talk to him again, speaking respectfully about his parents but firmly, because last time, I had gone over the line a bit, which had derailed our conversation. We met yesterday after work, and I raised the issue with him again. I said that he knows how much I've been looking forward to our honeymoon, that I only plan on having it once, and that his parents being there would ruin it for both of us. I also said that I didn't want to change anything about it, not the hotel or the destination, because it just wasn't fair. He said he doesn't like that they're coming either, but they've given their word that they won't interfere. But to me, it's not about believing them, it's about the fact that the honeymoon I had in mind would be ruined with them around. I told him this wasn't just a trivial annoyance for me, it was actually making me unhappy, and I needed him to do something about it. He said he'd handle it. Well, first, he told me that, knowing his parents, especially his mom, she was going to feel slighted by us. We're going to be living a 3-hour flight away from them, so it's not like we'll see them too often, but he said he just wanted me to know that would happen. I said I was fine with that, probably could have been more tactful, but he found it amusing. He said he'd handle it, so I waited. Last night, he told me his parents were canceling their plan. I asked him how it went, and he said it went fine. They said it would be 2 separate plans, but he told them their plan was becoming a problem and asked them to change it because it would mean a lot to him. So they did. They hadn't booked tickets yet, but they're looking into either getting a refund on their hotel reservations or, as my fiancé suggested, delaying the trip to some time in the future. I told him I was sorry that he'd been put in this position, but I was so happy about it. I even started tearing up. This had been weighing on me so heavily, and I was so glad things were back to how I had envisioned them. I also know the stress of the wedding and work has been weighing on him too, and I didn't like adding this extra stress onto him. He said it was a very short and simple conversation with his parents. I had thought there'd be a big argument since they hadn't been swayed previously. My parents were also really happy for me. My dad thinks it wouldn't hurt to call my mother-in-law and apologize, not in an "I'm sorry I did this" way but more of an "I'm sorry this happened" way. My mom thinks there's no need. My fiancé thinks it's up to me. I'm really glad I came here and found out I wasn't overreacting, otherwise, I wouldn't have had the confidence to ask for my honeymoon back. Thank you, everyone. Second update 2 days later. There won't be any apologies. His parents asked for pictures from us during our honeymoon, but I'm not sending crap. His mom complained about me to my mom, saying that I wasn't making an effort to become part of the family, that I was hostile, and that I didn't understand the importance of relationships. My mom stood up for me and said I have no duty to anyone except my soon-to-be husband. I take back whatever I might have said about generally liking my soon-to-be mother-in-law. I'm done. They've canceled their vacation, which is what I wanted. I'll smile for the family pictures at the wedding, and once we fly out, I'm done with her. Relevant comments. Commenter. I don't think you should apologize either, but why did you react that way when they simply asked for a picture? They canceled like you wanted, rightfully so, and kept their distance. So why are you getting so combative? Op's response. Because she complained to my mom a few hours ago about how she knew I must have been the one who had a problem with their plan, how I was being hostile and didn't understand the importance of relationships, and how I wasn't trying to become a part of the family. This is after I've been extending goodwill and respect every step of the way. Editor's note. Op made a post in r/just-no-mill 1 day later, confirming that she's going no contact with her mother-in-law and asking about how low/no contact relationships work. Here is the one comment she replied to. Commenter. I read your post, and I was horrified. Well done on setting boundaries. The issue you're going to have is if your partner doesn't respect your wishes to go no contact and if your mother-in-law is able to manipulate him into doing what she wants. What does your partner say about going no contact? Op's response. After she talked badly about me to my mom, I spoke to my fiancé and told him I was done with her. He agreed that what she did was uncalled for. He said he was okay with me going no contact for now, at least until her attitude toward me changes. But I don't know how he feels about going no contact himself because, honestly, I didn't ask him. He's her son, and I figured asking him to go no contact too might be asking too much of him.
Story 4.
My newly hired coworker is the owner's daughter and thinks I'm not pretty enough to deserve the help I receive at work. I'm handicapped and missing both my legs. Throwaway because my brother thinks I'm the jerk here, and I don't need him chiming in. I'm not asking if I am. I, 25F, work in an office. The front of the office is for client parking only, so it doesn't get overcrowded. The back of the office has our employee parking. The front has 3 handicap parking spots, but the back has none. Technically, it meets whatever requirements it has too. I lost both of my legs from the knees down in a terrible accident as a teen. I had to relearn how to walk, deal with constant pain, and can't go long distances. Carrying anything heavy is also a big challenge. I've made it work with my prosthetics and occasionally use a wheelchair if my stumps really ache. That said, I never wear skirts or shorts. I don't like the stares, the questions, or the unsolicited advice. When I started working at my job, I asked if I would be parking out front, but my office instead gave me a reserved parking spot next to the back door. They even hung a little sign marking it as reserved. After working there for a while, I suggested to management that they add a handicap spot or 2 in the back, but they declined, saying there wasn't a need for it because I had my reserved spot. I figured they would reserve another spot for anyone else who needed it, just like they had a temporary reservation area for any pregnant coworkers. Last week was rough. One of my legs had splintered, it's the best word I have to describe it, after a bit of a fumble on my part. So I had no choice but to use the wheelchair until I could get my replacement. Since I dislike being legless, it makes me very self-conscious. I still wore my prosthetics. I pulled into the back parking lot to see my spot taken by a pretty little car. I'm a sucker for green. The front parking was also full, so all that was left was the parking in the way back. Instead, I just turned around, pulled into the front client parking area, parked, hung up my placard, and went inside. I immediately found my boss and explained about my leg. the parking situation, and what I had done. He wasn't pleased that someone had taken my spot and told me to just get to work while he looked into it. Around lunchtime, he found me and explained that it was the owner's kid. She had just started working here and didn't know about the parking. He said she wouldn't be parked there again tomorrow. Cool, just a newbie and a mix-up. The next day rolls around, and that pretty little car is back where it doesn't belong. I do the same thing as the day before, and my boss looks frustrated. He heads off to have a chat. At some point, my boss comes back to me with a stack of paperwork. He tells me that the new girl is kicking up a fuss about the parking spot and trying to threaten him because, you know who my dad is, right? So he's done with it. Instead of taking it up the ladder and fighting against her to get the boss man to see reason, he's submitting paperwork to HR about the lack of handicap parking in the back. Since I started working here, HR and our accessibility department have changed hands, and he knows there are a few people there who are very accommodating. I filled out the paperwork, and he took it from there. For the rest of the week, I had to park in the front, and everyone was getting annoyed with it for one reason or another, either complaining about special treatment for me or getting angry at the new girl for kicking out someone who actually needed the parking spot. A lot of people started giving her the cold shoulder, and she couldn't understand why. More people have been checking on me and offering to help carry things. She saw this and decided that I'm not pretty enough for that kind of attention and that I'm unprofessional. This morning, I checked the back again, and her little car was parked all the way in the back. In my old reserved spot, there's now a bright and shiny handicap sign. I rolled in to hear her loudly complaining to the front-end staff, demanding they set a time for her to meet with her daddy today because she can't be bothered to walk across a parking lot on perfectly healthy legs, judging by her skirt and heels. I would trade our legs in an instant so she could keep the damn parking spot. Sorry, I guess I needed to vent a little. And I'm worried about what she might say to her daddy and how it will affect me. Relevant comments. Commenter. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't businesses required to have at least one handicapped spot? Anyways, screw your brother for saying you're the jerk. If anyone is, it's the owner's kid and your brother. Commenter 2. The last time I checked, you needed one handicap accessible spot for every 25 parking spots. So if you have 100 spots, 4 must be handicap accessible. If you have 76 spots, 4 must be handicap accessible. Update 1 day later. I appreciated the kind words about my annoying little rant yesterday. My brother can be pretty hard to deal with, as he has a very difficult time understanding others. Maybe he didn't get enough hugs as a kid, who knows? I know not a lot of people are looking for an update, but it felt nice to have a few people on my side. That said, nothing really happened yesterday. It wasn't until I was home from work that things started to pick up. My boss called after hours, he never does this, and strongly suggested that I wear a skirt to work tomorrow and then leave early for an appointment, with time off that he had approved. When pressed, he said he really couldn't go into details because my reactions would reveal too much. I asked if there was any way to get out of wearing the skirt, and he suggested bringing a blanket to drape over my legs. My boss has never asked me for anything like this before, but I had the feeling it was to drive home a point. So, against my own feelings, I wore the skirt and went into work today. I placed the blanket over my legs in my office and worked until I was called in for a surprise meeting with my boss, the owner, and HR. My boss gave me a pointed look at my legs before we entered the meeting, so I put the blanket on the back of my wheelchair. The owner looked absolutely annoyed to be there, borderline angry, and stood up to say something but seemed to freeze. I could hear his teeth click as he shut his mouth. He went to stare out the window while we, HR, my boss, and I discussed his daughter's actions and words. Apparently, a few people had submitted complaints about her on my behalf. The owner asked only one question the entire time: "How long have you been? Well, when did you lose your legs?" I answered and offered proof, but my boss said it was already on file for my accommodations and could be checked there. The owner stormed out after that. HR thanked me for my time and sent me back to my office. By noon, I was leaving, and the owner's daughter was packing up her space, crying while her father stood over her with the darkest expression I had ever seen on him. He frustrates easily but hardly ever yells. I can count on one hand how many times he has. He was shouting at her the entire time she packed. I just rolled by as quietly as I could because I didn't want to get sucked in. My boss texted me that the owner had approved me to work from home as needed and that I would be getting a pay raise outside of the usual annual raise and bonuses. He also said that the owner would be making his daughter apologize. This turned out better than I had thought it would. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Relevant comments. Commenter. I couldn't understand why the daughter still kicked up a fuss when Op showed up in a wheelchair. Did the entitled brat think that Op just had a wheelchair sitting around because she spent her free time panhandling? And how did Op get a handicap placard? Apparently, the brat thought Op was faking it until she proved she'd lost her legs. I hope the brat finally learned a lesson. Commenter 2. She's probably one of those people who believes that if a wheelchair user is ever capable of walking, they don't actually need the wheelchair and aren't really disabled. Commenter 3. I mean, he probably believed whatever his little angel was telling him at first. Judging by his asking how long it had been since Op lost their legs, she probably spun a tale about someone taking advantage of her or bullying her because she's new or some nonsense. He even put his neck on the line a bit with that meeting. Once he realized how close he was to making a serious mistake because his daughter was a spoiled brat, he handled it. Maybe a little overboard since he was yelling in the office, but that could very well be the first tough parenting she's ever received. Honestly, massive win for Op to have coworkers supporting and standing up for her, even against the big boss's daughter.
Story 5.
My husband kept it a secret from me that he used to hook up with his best friend multiple times in the past. Now I'm begging him to cut contact, but he's refusing and calling me crazy. I feel like I'm going crazy, and I need a fresh perspective before taking the next step. I discovered that my husband, 37M, and his best friend, 36F, had a sexual relationship that lasted throughout their high school years and multiple relationships. Apparently, it was a known secret in their circle of friends. Let me start from the beginning. I met my husband during the last year of college. He comes from a very small town and has had the same group of friends since elementary school. I used to find it endearing, but now, I feel sick. His best friend used to be his deskmate in kindergarten. He used to talk about her a lot before I met her, mostly fun anecdotes and childhood memories. Honestly, I was a bit jealous at the beginning. He had all these memories and shared friends with her. He even had a special nickname for her, Pokey. I let go of my worries when I met her. Pokey was not like the horrible female best friend in the movies. She was always supportive and sweet. She's a cake designer, and she gifted us our wedding cake and made a beautiful speech. Still, there was a part of me that always felt a bit uneasy. My husband and I never really talked about past relationships, mostly because I didn't want to focus on the past, but in general, from what he let slip, he was a bit of a jerk as a teenager. In particular, his friends sometimes talk about how it's incredible their group survived the summer of madness. I always assumed that some kind of high school drama happened and that was it, until I discovered what it was really about. I was out with one of my husband's friends' wives, Gertrude. Gertrude told me that she admired me for being so secure in my marriage even with the one that got away in the picture. I was confused. I told her that I didn't understand what she was talking about, and then she said, "Oh, I thought you knew about Pokey and Maurice, my husband." I think I died a little hearing that. She proceeded to tell me how they basically hooked up throughout their high school years. How Pokey was my husband's first everything and how they cheated on every single boyfriend and girlfriend they had during that period with each other. The famous summer of madness was the last summer of high school. Apparently, the whole group was fighting because some were done with their behavior while others kept covering for them. What's worse is that it all ended because Pokey put a stop to it. She chose a college kilometers away from their hometown and stopped talking to my husband for a whole year. After the revelation, I confronted Pokey. I shouldn't have, but I was so angry and humiliated. I don't want her near me or my husband. I keep thinking about how they shared everything, about how not even our intimacy is truly ours. It drives me insane. She obviously told my husband, and we've been fighting since then. He keeps telling me over and over that there's nothing between him and Pokey. In his opinion, I'm overreacting to something that happened almost 20 years ago and has been closed and dead. But I feel like I can never trust the two of them together. Am I wrong? Relevant comments. Commenter. What happened when you confronted Pokey? Why didn't you confront your husband first? Whose idea was the wedding speech? Op's response. She was surprised but calm, which made me even more mad. She told me she thought my husband had told me about it and that it was not her place to talk about it. Then she told me to talk to my husband, but that unless he told her to stay low contact, she would not do anything. She was his best man, so yeah. Commenter 2. How long into the relationship did you meet Pokey? Was that a sexual nickname? Op's response. No, it's something from their childhood. Only Maurice and her father call her that. I met her after a couple of months with the other friends. Commenter 3. Did Maurice and Pokey date in the past? Op's response. They never dated, according to Gertrude, but also, my husband was pretty toxic in the whole situation. All I hear from him are excuses, some are even valid, but I feel like it just makes the situation worse. He calls me honey most of the time. I used to think the whole Pokey thing was cute and wholesome. Now I feel a bit foolish. Commenter 4. How did your husband react to your request to cut contact/go low contact with Pokey? How do they interact with each other when they're out with friends? Ops response. Maurice told me not to make him choose, that he barely remembers a time when he didn't have her in his life. That it should not come to this. The thing is, their group of friends is very, very close. I was not used to that. Pokey works at a bakery and everyone, Maurice too, goes there for breakfast and lunch breaks. They have game nights, movie nights, brunches, and dinners, so they see each other a lot. Pokey lives down the road and she and Maurice take the dogs out every evening. Commenter 5. Is Pokey currently married? Does she have any kids? Do you and your husband have any kids? Ops response. She and her ex divorced a couple of years ago. She wanted children, he didn't. It wasn't pretty. Apparently, her ex knew. She's not dating at the moment, but she briefly dated a guy in the past. No, Maurice and I are child-free. Op adds an edit to her post. Okay, so a lot of people are asking me why I got angry at Pokey and not my husband. First, I am angry at Maurice. I can barely stand to be in the same room as him. Second, I feel childish, but I am jealous of her. I didn't grow up like Maurice. I barely remember the people I went to middle school with. To me, friends are something different. He had this girl who knew every single thing about him, who shared adventures, Christmases, birthdays, family, and friends. It was a lot. I knew she was important to him, so I tried my best. I thought that at least I had his love first. Turns out she had that too. I was mad. Was it right? No, but in that moment, she was the focus of my rage. It drives me insane. Why can't he just say that he was in love with her? It's plain as day that she was his first love. But no, I don't get it and am delusional, they were kids and confused, etc. Screw that, what's confusing about ditching your friends and your girlfriend for a summer just to hook up with your best friend? Gertrude told me about the castle of lies he spun around that poor girl. I feel sick thinking about it. Update 2 days later. Hi guys, first of all, thank you for all the responses, messages, and support I've received. Currently, I feel like I don't really have friends I can trust, but at least I can get some validation from you. There's a link to the previous post if you need it. So, I have a small update, and things don't look good. I had a pretty big fight with my husband last night. He went to his usual Friday game night. Some of you asked me about that. He and his friends have 2 types of game nights. One is normally on Friday, as most of them don't work during the weekend. It's a group thing, and they play some kind of D&D. It's usually hosted by Andrew, 37M, who is the master of the campaign. Then, there are sporadic game nights where some of them play video games and chat. In that case, the number of people varies. As I said, last night Maurice went to play D&D. I asked if Pokey would be there. He was annoyed and told me yes. I asked if he had seen her these days. He told me that he went to get coffee with some of the guys and that on Thursday, he went to grab lunch. I was pissed, so I raised my voice and asked why he couldn't stay away from her, at least for now. He told me, and I quote, "I can, but I'm not going to cater to your tantrum." I didn't do anything, so I'm not going to act like I'm guilty of something. I reiterated that I don't want her in our life now that I know, and he asked me what I wanted him to do. It's a small town, and we are neighbors. All of my friends are her friends. Unless we move, we're going to have contact. So I told him that maybe we should move. Maybe we should start over in a place where I can trust people. He told me I'm insane, that he's not going to sell his grandma's house, one he loves, and move somewhere away from his family and friends just because I feel insecure, and that I need to grow the F up. I stormed into our room, and he went to his friends. When he came back, he started gaming on the PS instead of coming to bed. I could hear him talking, so I went to the living room. I asked him who he was playing with. I kid you not, he was playing COD and chatting with Pokey and Andrew. He had just been with her a couple of hours before. I asked him to come to bed. He told me he had to finish the game and that he needed to vent his frustration. I'm not proud of myself, but I raised my voice again and said something like, "Can you even breathe without seeing her for 10 minutes?" He didn't even look at me. He just said, "If you're gonna make a scene, tell me now so I can turn off the mic." I slept in the guest room. This morning, Joachim, the friend who works in my office, came and talked to me. Apparently, Maurice told them everything on Friday. He was venting. He told me that Gertrude thrives on drama and that's why she opened that can of worms. He assured me that there's nothing between Pokey and Maurice and that this situation will become an issue only if I make it one. I asked him what he meant, and he told me, "You married him, you know how he is. Maurice is emotionally dependent on Pokey or whatever. If she killed someone, he would dig a hole and help her hide the body. If you want this marriage to work, just learn to coexist." I asked him if he thinks Maurice still loves Pokey. He told me that maybe I should ask my husband because he doesn't know. At this point, I just can't let this go. I feel like a crazy, paranoid woman, but I just can't let this go. I asked Gertrude out for lunch on Wednesday. I begged her to tell me everything she knows because I need to know. Still, I'm scared of what I'll learn. Second update 10 days later. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the messages and the chats many of you sent me. Thank you for checking on me. I'm sorry I didn't reply sooner and for updating so late, but I needed time to think and sort myself out. Some of you pointed out how I was spiraling and acting kind of crazy. You were right, I was. It was hard to admit that I was doing as much damage as Maurice in the situation, and it was even harder to realize that maybe our marriage has more issues than I thought. I'll start by saying that I never went to that lunch. After our fight that Friday night, my husband spent Saturday at his mother's house. She lives 30 minutes from us with her new husband. He stayed there the whole day, and I discovered from his Instagram story that he took his two step siblings to a laser game and then to dinner. He also took them to Poke Bakery for dessert. I was livid but resigned at this point. He had clearly said that he didn't care about my discomfort, so it's not like I was expecting much. I ignored him when he came back later that evening. I just didn't want to fight again. He came to me and said we should talk. When I didn't respond, he told me that he was sorry for being a jerk the day before, that he had started to sound like his father and hated it, and that the last thing he wanted was for our marriage to be like his parents. I told him that he dismissed my feelings and that by still going to Pokey, he continued to do so, making me feel completely disrespected. I tried to explain as calmly as I could how hurt I was to know, 1, about their past from someone else, and 2, that everyone around me knew and never told me anything until now. I explained that I felt like a stranger because our friends suddenly reminded me that they were his friends with their behavior and that I felt like I couldn't trust anyone around me because no one had told me the truth. Then I asked him point blank if he still loved Pokey and why he kept everything a secret. And that's when he told me the truth. And oh boy, was I not ready. Maurice basically confessed that he had loved Pokey like crazy, like let's elope even if we're 16 and stupid level of crazy, but his parents were divorcing at the time, and it was incredibly ugly and violent. So his teenage mind decided that love was dangerous, that having a relationship meant losing the people you love. Ergo, never have a relationship with someone important to you. In his case, Pokey. He admitted that it was stupid but said, I was not exactly the smartest kid. He couldn't stay away, but he also couldn't bear to lose her if an eventual relationship imploded, so they stayed in this limbo until the summer of madness. Pokey was already pretty tired of the situation, but then she discovered that she was pregnant. It was Maurice's because, at the time, she was single, and as stupid teenagers, they weren't using protection. I was already shocked as it was, but hearing my child-free husband say that he had wanted that baby the moment Pokey showed up in his room with a positive pregnancy test left me speechless. So I asked what happened. And he told me that 2 weeks after finding out, she lost the baby. They were still trying to figure out how to tell their families when it happened. She got appendicitis and somehow, it caused inflammation in her tubes, leading to the pregnancy loss. He told me that his worst memory is calling Pokey's mom and his mom from the hospital while hearing Pokey's cries from behind the door of her room. Maurice also told me that that was pretty much the moment he became child-free. He said, I never want to hear someone I love cry like that ever again. Also, because of that pregnancy loss, it has become impossible for Pokey to have children without planning and medical help. That's why her divorce was so brutal. Most of their friends don't know, they still think she just had appendicitis. Maurice told me that after what happened, she ran off to university, avoiding him and pretty much the whole town for a year. He told me how confused and lonely he felt and how much he missed her, not the girl he loved but his best friend, the one who knew me better than myself, and that I could always count on. So when she reached out after Maurice's grandma died, he pretty much promised her that they would never put themselves in a situation like that again. That they would be just friends and nothing more. And that's what they have been. He told me that he'll always love her, but whatever they had is done. He married me, he loves me, and that's what should matter. When I asked him if he was willing to see Pokey less and have a different kind of friendship for my sake, he told me that while he loves me, he values his friends enough not to cut them off. He told me that after 13 years together, I should know this about him. So I told him that after 13 years, I should matter enough. I packed a bag and told him I was going to visit my parents because I needed time. And that's where we are. I took some time off work, and I'm still at my parents' house. It was a lot, and I still don't know how to feel. I'm mostly empty. Relevant comments. Commenter. You know what, maybe it's fine that I'm still single. May this kind of love never find me.
Story 6.
My grandma-in-law hates me and my sister because she never wanted her daughter to marry my father, so she asked me what I wanted for Christmas and then humiliated me in front of the entire family during gift openings. I, 25F, will try to make this as short and sweet as possible. Also, sorry for any formatting errors, I'm on mobile and in the middle of working a double on no sleep, but this has been bothering me for about 3 days now. At the onset of the pandemic, my husband, 26M, and I wound up unemployed and had to move in with my parents. My dad, 50-ish, and my stepmom, 40-ish, are the most wonderful humans in the world. My stepmom's mother, who I'll refer to as Marie from here on, late 70s-ish, not so much. We moved in at the end of October after our lease expired at our previous residence. A couple of days after moving in, Marie asked my husband and me if we had any Christmas wishes and was adamant that price was no object. She's made it very clear over the past 17 years that she didn't want her daughter marrying my father and that the added baggage of my sister and me made it even less ideal, but I assumed, since she asked me, that maybe she wanted to bury the hatchet. So I was honest, I mentioned wanting a new sewing machine. I showed her the one I wanted, which was about $200. I didn't think much of the exchange until last Friday, December 18th. Marie was leaving to visit family a few states over for the holidays, so she called the family together to hand out gifts. I had just gotten home from work, so my cousins, aunts, and uncles had already begun opening their gifts. 3 of my cousins and 1 of my aunts got the exact sewing machine I had shown Marie. All the other kids got things like video games, hoodies, sneakers, and gift cards to different places. I admittedly got a little excited. I went last. Marie handed me my gift, I opened it, and it was a sewing machine box, but instead of a sewing machine inside, it was filled with new towels. She said, "I know you guys are having money troubles. Thought that might be helpful." I waited until everyone left, but I was genuinely upset because I know that she knows we have towels, washcloths, etc., since we brought them with us from our old place, and we have our own designated cupboard for those things in our bathroom. When I got my new job, I took my first and second paycheck and started buying gifts for everyone. I spent nearly $150 to order a giant handwoven, dyed, and beaded tapestry from a local indigenous bead artist for Marie. I wanted to get her something I knew she would love and cherish because I thought maybe we were moving past the previous 17 years of hostility. She and I are both close to 50% indigenous, and it's a big part of her lifestyle and aesthetic, as it is mine. I genuinely don't know at this point if she was trying to be malicious, but I feel she was, having me open it in front of everyone, and I felt absolutely humiliated. My stepmom and dad agree with me and say I should keep it, as does my husband, but when I asked a few family friends, they said it sounds like I'm just mad that I didn't get an expensive gift. I feel it's blatant favoritism. Would I be the jerk if I kept the tapestry for myself? Edit. For clarity, the artist I ordered the tapestry from is about 1.5 hours away from our house, and I didn't have time to pick it up before Marie had to leave for the airport because of work. She told me not to worry about it and said I could just give it to her when she got back. Relevant comments. Commenter. What happened to the sewing machine that was originally in the box with the towels? I doubt she or the store just had an extra box lying around. I don't know why I'm stuck on that, it just seems odd that she'd have the box without the sewing machine. Anyway, not the jerk, keep your thoughtful gift, and if you feel obligated to get her something, just give her a gift card to a place she likes to eat or something easy. Maybe one of your cousins would gift you theirs since they know what happened. I know I wouldn't want a sewing machine, so I'd totally give it to you if it were gifted to me. And to be especially petty, I'd do it right in front of your grandma. Ops response. She took one of my cousin's sewing machines out of the box and packed it into a larger box with a case for her sewing machine because she travels for college and will be carrying it back and forth. She's the only other person in the family who sews, so it makes sense. Commenter 2. You're unsure if she acted with malice? She did. This was 100% intentional, malicious, bona fide jerkbaggery. Keep the thingy. This was a declaration of war on you, so even after keeping the thingy, strike back in a similar fashion when and where you can. If she's not a broken, whimpering pile of misery pudding by the time you're done with her, she wins. I'm rooting for you. Ops response. Okay, you're my hero for this. Commenter 2. I was just mad at you. Be careful not to alienate other members of your family if you take the advice above. If things go sour between you and your stepmom because of this, then I will be the jerk. Ops response. I'm not going to give her the tapestry, I'm going to give it to a friend who is also indigenous and will appreciate it. But now, I'll be getting her a crappy, generic return gift. Commenter 3. Obviously, not the jerk. Come on, why are you even asking? This is one of those my co-worker kicked my puppy and called me stupid, am I the jerk for being mad questions? Ops response. I'm asking because I got opposing opinions, and I wanted to know if I'd be justified in keeping it if I chose to do so. Commenter 3. I think the answer is so obvious that the only reason you could possibly get conflicting opinions is if you presented the story differently to someone else. What you wrote here paints a vivid picture that leaves no doubt in anyone's mind about what you should do and how you should feel about it. If you left anything out or misrepresented anything, then you didn't get a genuine answer from us. So it comes down to the question of whether you came here looking for advice or looking to be validated. You're the only one who knows the answer. If you gave us the whole story, enjoy your tapestry. Ops response. Yeah, honestly, this is me thinking that I probably need new friends because everything I said here is exactly what I told them, word for word, in our group chat. Update same day. I called my stepmom and told her that I would not be giving Marie the gift and that I would be getting her something else. I don't know what yet, but I'm sure I can come up with a crappy, generic gift between now and New Year's. Thank you all so much for your honesty and candor. Edit. I met with my stepmom for an early lunch. Around 2 p.m., she's expecting a family Skype call from Marie, and she's going to address it head-on in front of the entire family. I'll update further for anyone invested, I guess? Edit 2. Final update. My stepmom started off by saying that she wanted everyone to hush because she had something she wanted to discuss. She went on about how Marie has always been kind and generous, but this year, she was untoward and mean in a very aggressive way. Then she had me tell everyone what she did. Marie kept trying to get my uncle to end the call, but he refused. My stepmom had let him know beforehand that this was going to happen and that he was not to cut the call. I told everyone what happened, as well as some other things she's done over the years, especially around the holidays. Marie was mortified. I showed her the tapestry and explained the thought process behind it being my gift for her, how much I had hoped that her seemingly going out of her way to get me a gift was finally a chance for us to bridge the gap between us and have a relationship. Then I informed her that I would be gifting the tapestry to someone else who actually deserved my kindness. I told her she could expect to find her gift in her room when she returned home and that I don't care whether she apologizes or not because the damage is done. My sister and I did nothing to deserve the treatment we've been given, and I have no desire to be anything more than cordial with her from this point on, whether we live in the same house or not. I've decided to just buy her some cheap scented candles and call it a day. My younger cousins decided they do not want their sewing machines, as did my aunt. They all decided they're going to give me one of them and try to get refunds on the other two, and we're all going to do some sort of spa day together. My stepmom took over again after that because I got emotional, and she laid into Marie for making a public spectacle of her trickery. Words were exchanged between them, but my stepmom held fast. We ended the call shortly after. My stepmom and I are on the way to my aunt's to porch pick up my new sewing machine. I also reached out to the now former friends to let them know that I don't appreciate them siding with Marie and making me second-guess myself. I told them that I will be civil but nothing more, as I didn't deserve their harsh judgments. The tapestry has been packed up nicely and will be shipped to one of my absolute best friends tomorrow so that he can love and appreciate it because it's beautiful and deserves to be cherished. Thank you to each and every one of you for your honesty and your words, kind and harsh alike. This has really made the holiday so much better for me and has, oddly, brought my parents and me even closer. Blessed Yule, happy holidays, I love you all.